One of the other things I forgot to mention earlier was that snake, I thought it was dead. But after parking across from it and seeing a car pass over it, I saw the most peculiar thing. The snake took the attack pose. It coiled up. I mean, it looked like, the typical don't tread on me snake in shining with brightness, always on surveillance, don't tread on me mode. It looked a lot like that. And so basically, I saw it go into this defense posture, and then it just kind of flopped down, It was unbelievable how interesting. It was unbelievable. I just passed a service vehicle. It was unbelievable how awake this animal was and how active its bursts of energy could be. I mean, it just took up that pose like, who is this? What are you doing? It was afraid of the car passing over it. And when I saw that and recognized this guy might be hurt, that's one of those things that you can't help but recognize in one another. So this snake that I thought was dead and that just basically sprung to life because it was pretty much in and out of consciousness on the pavement, it saw something that motivated it to come over and ask for help not living out the last of its days in the middle of pavement being turned into snake pulp, I don't know how else to explain it. You can take what I'm saying as some interpretation that just doesn't make sense and it doesn't quite coincide with the values that we've been taught, or you can almost imagine that this life that you just saw, knowing it, how hard it was right then, it's pretty much just about gratitude. All of us and how we're treating each other in our times of need. It's just gratitude. And how a lot of people hear me is, it's almost like you're tuning out, because the way I talk, it's passionate enough that it scares you into thinking about previous uncomfortable scenarios, possibly. I really don't know. All I know is that I scare people when I talk about nature and wildlife. Possibly when I show people this too. It all depends on how you've been taught. If you've been taught to be a steward of the land, and that, not every instance of something that you heard about at some point in the past is the same. It's not stereotypical. And that those not stereotypical traits might need to evolve into our dominant traits. If you really want to put a language to it, there's no barrier between the words that I'm using and the words that you're hearing. The only thing is how you're hearing it. And if you saw what I just showcased, which is that animals absolutely respond to compassion, then maybe the rate that we're consuming this entire planet and bottling it up for one another. Big jackrabbit just crossed the road quite some distance in front of me. I was just confirming what it was as it ran across. I thought it was a gray fox at first, but then it's, mid-stride, hunched pose, and superb ears popped up, and there was no mistaking it. Anyway, the fact is, could be a bear, could be a snake, could be a rabbit. There are certain things that we've taken from the world, insects, And we're just not really appreciative because we're not really fully aware. That's all there is to it. It's not that we aren't considerate when we're reminded. It's not that someone has to count to 3 with 2.5 and 2 3/4 and every other increment of non-follow through, non-committal, non-responsibility, irresponsibility. If we're going to continue to proceed irresponsibly by suggesting that, well, it's in my nature to do this, without ever considering whether it's in our subconscious or in our conscious that our decisions are made. For me, it's pretty interesting because you saw me, and you probably saw my gestures that indicated at least a little bit of fear with the encounter that was about to happen, because my triggers for self-preservation had me thinking everything from the camera being on and my hand being around the camera. Maybe the snake thought, oh man, look at these tiny mice poking out from around this phone. But no, the snake actually has beautiful, superb eyes. And I'm sure it saw everything it was looking at, just like my dog Tracker would look at me. And at the same time, it was in pain. It wasn't looking at my hand to attack it, but my fear manifested in some of the actions and energy that transpired during our initial encounter. I didn't know how to respond to this animal that has never talked to me out in public before, other than the subconscious gestures that make me wonder, did I just perceive that, you know? Did that snake give me a quick nod? I don't know. How many times have you actually paid attention to those things? I apologize for not looking you directly in the camera eye, but there are things on the road that I'm obviously looking for that I'm telling you I am compassionate about. If you don't believe it, well, one day when you watch the story and catch up to the rest of what the world is saying about compassion, maybe we'll stop buying those prepackaged, advertised, sponsored, enriched, discounted items. Some of the production value can be better allocated to those jobs that really do exist right now in our nation, like cleaning up all of the litter. Why should somebody not get a stimulus check based on how many pieces of plastic they picked up from around the country, even? Just some random radical thoughts. What if all of the super big warehouse stores, and I don't want to sponsor anyone in particular, we have plenty of them, but what if instead of selling newly produced things, we all inventoried all of the previously produced things, all the way down to the pieces? And a friend of mine works in a place that's very similarly outfitted for electronics and does exactly this. Why don't we convert all of the big warehouses into something doing the same thing? I didn't necessarily need a faster laptop. I just needed the laptop to not have an expanding battery in it. So that's what generated my last purchase. I'm sure somewhere along the line someone has dropped a laptop and the screen is cracked and all of the parts inside of it have gone to reuse. You know, those are things that we can do. And all of those are ideas that come to mind when I think, well, how do we take out the pieces of the puzzle that are keeping us from completing the main puzzle? Well, we've got to simplify it. We've got to simplify what we gravitate to get and try to recognize that there is a cost in resources. Even this very video comes to you at a cost. I know I've hit at least one bug. I believe 2. Which I'm not proud of. And at the same time, in the past, we just took it for granted that we would hit 100 in 2, 1,000 in 2. I even passed through rain. During any kind of a rainfall where there's flowers blooming, and I passed bluebonnets that were blooming and some kind of lavender looking purple flowers that were blooming. Anytime you're passing plants that are blooming, you normally see bugs, and there's bugs that emerge and erupt right after the rainfall sometimes. It's not happening the same way that it was before. I am not a genius. I'm not degreed in any of the things that would quantify my talking as being anything relevant to the 2020 vote. And yet, I challenge you. Pick a better set of values to base your investments on. Pick a better set of values to base your votes on. I challenge you. And it's not difficult because it's fun. It's fun and it tugs at your heart. Because now we've got to tend to the things that have been ailing for far too long. That includes ourselves. If we're not at peace with ourselves, it's very hard to hear what it is that I'm saying and to see it visually and hear some guy ramble on about it when I'm not actually rambling. This is a very complete story. Who anyone listening to this who's not afflicted, who's not pent up and stiff-necked, can hear what I'm saying. You can hear it without any problem. In fact, if you can hear this, please, I pray that there's someone who can hear this, can hit like, subscribe, maybe even share this clip with someone else. Share it on your own profile, whatever it is, so that someone else can hear, not you. You already know what I'm talking about, and I already know what I'm talking about, but you know the struggle, how hard it is to get people to see what we're talking about. In fact, might get some people erased from what I know, but together we're a lot stronger than we are apart. So I need you more than ever right now, my friends, my family, my advocates. If you could do me the great honor of seeing and hearing and speaking on behalf of actionable votes, do it. And I know you can do it. There's no way you can't do it. We have every tool available right now, maybe for a limited time. Because the powers that be don't always want the message to get out. So this isn't against the powers. This is in favor of the powers. This is in favor of a conversion of compassion, really. What do we base it on? How much money someone gives us? How much we actually help or have been helped by someone or another? The real compassion is when we have something and we're able to share. I have physical health because I do my best to choose from the things that I say bring about physical health. It's hard for people to recognize that we can turn our health around until you show it. It starts with gratitude. With gratitude comes the understanding and awareness, compassion, that all of everything we're doing took resources. Some of those resources were alive. How were they handled? Was there fear involved? Because if we're eating things that were handled with in a way that endured a lot of fear, something's in it that causes it to be a little different. I can tell you that for a fact. What's in me is a little different from what's in most people. There's a fire that's a little bit different. You just never know when I'm going to accomplish exactly what I set out to accomplish. You never know how. That's the funny part about it. I'm never worried about it. All I'm concerned with is whether or not we can collectively communicate the awareness of wellness and conservation and how they go hand in hand. Doesn't take any voting experience, but yes, you can vote on behalf of what's more reasonable as well. We all can. Sometimes those dollars we spend collectively add up to a lot more than whatever we can stick in a mailbox once every so few years. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Peace.